I think I got gypped on that load. I'm gonna have to look at that. Yeah, that doesn't seem right now that I'm looking at it. I think I got gypped on this load. Hold on. I got gypped $1,000 on that load. Welcome back to Trucking the Seven Seas. This is episode number 73. And in this episode, we're going to go over week 26 and 27 of the Landstar Owner-Operator Program. For this week, we decided to do some local running around the Midwest. So we do that, and we also have a pretty significant maintenance issue, so we'll go over that later in the episode. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I started this channel in order to show exactly what truck drivers make. I started as a company driver, working for night transportation, moved on to a lease operator, working for night transportation, and now we are an owner-operator working for Landstar. I show all the loads I take, what the revenue is, what the expenses are, and what my net cash flow is, and I compile all this information that I put into a spreadsheet that I share with you at the end of every video. So if this is a topic that interests you, follow the channel. But last episode, we left off in Fresno, California. So we dropped a load in Fresno, California. Then, per usual, I started to deadhead down to Los Angeles. So I was deadheading down to Los Angeles, but I ended up finding a load out of actually Heber, California, which is just south of Los Angeles. So it was a little bit far on the deadhead, but this load paid $280 per mile to go to Sewanee, Georgia, which is Atlanta. So the load is actually going to be put right over here this time. So that's the load. It was pretty significant on the deadhead, about 400 miles, but I was already going to have to deadhead like 250 miles to Los Angeles, and I was going to have to drive through Los Angeles. So I decided that this load was fine, especially since it paid $280 per mile. So I went ahead, deadheaded down to to Heber, California, and we grabbed this load, and then we're headed to Sewanee, Georgia, which is Atlanta. So let's go. Okay, so after that Sewanee, Georgia load, I decided for this week I wanted to start running the Midwest a little bit. I wanted to try some regional running and some local running-ish in the area. When I originally started at Landstar, I did try to do this in Texas, and it was a lot of work because I didn't quite know, like, okay, what's the proper way to book loads, where to go, you know, like, I just didn't know enough to do local runs, which is why I started to do more long runs, and also I enjoy the long runs a little bit more. But I decided to go ahead and try to head up to the Midwest for basically the next couple weeks. That's what I did. So looking to go up there, looking to run regional in the Midwest. And I ended up finding this load right over here. This load is going from Jefferson, Georgia to Ottawa, Ohio, which is right where I wanted to go. So we booked this one, and now we're headed to Ohio. Let's go. All right, so after that Ottawa, Ohio load, I then wanted to get up to kind of Michigan, kind of maybe north of Detroit, because right now, there's another reason why I wanted to run the Midwest is because the weather is really nice right here, right now. Well, it's nice in the Midwest right now, and also the fall colors are actually really nice. I always like to run somewhere in the fall where the fall colors are nice, and in the Midwest, they're pretty nice. So I decided I was going to head up to Michigan, kind of northern-ish Michigan if I could, and take a day off there and view the fall colors. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up finding this load over here. So this one's going from Holiday City, Ohio to Gaylord, Michigan. Gaylord, Michigan, I think that's how you say it. So so we're headed to Gaylord, Michigan. It was a decent load, but also that's where I wanted to go because the fall colors were really nice at this time of year. And when I got there, they were very nice. So that's what I ended up doing. So we booked this one going to Gaylord, Michigan, and let's go to Gaylord. All right, so after that Gaylord, Michigan load, I took about a day and a half off. You know, view the colors up there. That was very nice, and they were pretty good. So that's always cool. Always like to do that during the fall. Find a nice place to look at the colors. So that's what I did. And then after that Gaylord, Michigan load, I found another one in Stanwood, Michigan. And this one's going to Marion, Indiana, which is just north of Indianapolis. So that's a decent one. So that load's right over here, per usual. And that's the load we ended up booking. So let's go to Indianapolis, or I guess Marion, but close to Indianapolis. Let's go. All right, so after that Marion load, we then found this load right over here. This one's going from Indianapolis to St. Louis, Missouri. Very standard, 2 big cities, so that's always good. So looked at that one, and we went ahead and booked it. So now let's go to St. Louis, Missouri. All right, so after that St. Louis load, it was like Friday or something like that, so I needed to find one to get through the weekend. So I went ahead and was looking for a slightly longer load, and I ended up finding this one right over here. So this one is going from St. Louis, Missouri, so that's good. There was no deadhead. It was like 5 miles away from my drop, so that was good. And it's headed to Forest Park, Georgia, which is once again Atlanta. So let's go to Forest Park. Okay, so after the Forest Park one, we wanted to get back to the Midwest. So that week of running in the Midwest went pretty well, and I decided to do it for another week. And as I'm filming this right now, I did it next week as well. So I might actually start doing this more often. It's pretty decent up here, and I'm a lot more knowledgeable on how to book loads on the load board and do all that. So it's becoming a lot simpler basically. So yeah, looking to get back to the Midwest from Atlanta once again, and I ended up finding this load right over here. So this one's going from Anniston, Alabama to Oskaloosa, Iowa. So that's what we ended up doing. So we booked this one from Anniston, Alabama to Oskaloosa. A little bit of deadhead, but not a big deal. So let's go to Oskaloosa. I think I'm saying that right. Okay, so after that Oskaloosa load, we then found another one going from, well, it's actually going to be right over here, but it's going from New Liberty, Iowa to, where was it? Lockbourne, Ohio. So going to Lockbourne, Ohio. However, that load is not going to make the paycheck, so we're going to go ahead and get to the spreadsheet right now. All right, so I had to turn the truck on. It's getting a little warm in here, so if you hear some background noise, it's the truck running and the AC. So that's what that's about. But anyways, for this episode, we're going to go over week 26 and 27. So let's do it. For week 26, we did 4 loads. In those 4 loads, we got 3,778 miles. We were paid a total of $6,270 for an average of $1.66 per mile. Landstar's cut was $2,459 for an average of 65 cents per mile. Fuel expenses were $571 for an average of 15 cents per mile, and there were no maintenance expenses this week. Other expenses: workers' comp, $72, card fees, $8, truck scans, $1, bobtail insurance, $34, license fees, $3, permits, $94, tolls, $15, for a total of $230 for an average of 6 cents per mile. Totals for week 26. Total expenses were $801 for an average of 21 cents per mile. Total revenue was $6,270 for an average of $1.66 per mile. That brought our net settlement to $5,468 for an average of $1.45 per mile. Okay, so I'm sure you're immediately wondering why this week was so good. And simply put, this week was so good because this long load here, the Heber, California to Sewanee, Georgia, was done largely on last week's, the week 25's pay period anyway. So this one, I think I probably got, of the 2,500 miles, I probably did like 1,800 miles on last week's paycheck. So that's what that's about. This one was done largely on last week's paycheck. And that also reduced my fuel expense significantly. So most of this week's fuel expenses are actually on last week's. So if you look up, you'll notice that I had a 55-cent per mile fuel expense, which is kind of high. And then this week I only have 15 cents down here per mile. And that's because this load was done largely on last week's paycheck. So that's what's going on there. And as a result, obviously this week is extremely juiced. So 3,700 miles, not totally normal for a given week. But yeah, a lot of last week's running was done, well, a lot of that Sewanee load was done on the previous week's paycheck. So that's why this one is so juiced. That's not normal, but that is what happened there. So that is week 26. And that's about it. No maintenance expenses, nothing like that. So let's go ahead and move on to week 27. For week 27, we did 3 loads. In those 3 loads, we got 1,747 miles. We were paid a total of $3,398 for an average of $1.95 per mile. Landstar's cut was $1,480 for an average of 85 cents per mile. Fuel expenses were $1,298 at 74 cents per mile. Maintenance expenses were $1,901 at $1.09 per mile. Other expenses: workers' comp, $72, truck scans, $6, bobtail insurance, $34, license fees, $3, permits, $94, tolls, $9, EOBR, $8, for a total of $229 for an average of 13 cents per mile. Totals for week 27, total expenses were $3,429 for a total of $1.96 per mile. Total revenue was $3,398 at $1.95 per mile. That brought our net settlement to negative $31.62 for negative 2 cents per mile. Okay, so for this week, I haven't mentioned it yet, but this week, I was up there in the Midwest and I was viewing the fall colors, and I was taking it pretty easy. So I wasn't running particularly hard this week. I was just sort of enjoying the good weather and the fall colors. I did end up buying a bike, actually. So I got a bike strapped up actually right here on the back side of my truck. I guess I'll show a picture of it. I have a tire holder that I noticed would be very good for holding a bike. So I ended up buying just a piece of crap puffy bike for like $100, and I just sort of strapped it up there. Fits really nice. It's nice and secure. It doesn't chafe or anything like that. So that's good. So I bought it, and then this week, week 27, I was running very relaxed. So that's why this week isn't very good. I was up there running very relaxed, and I actually went on quite a few bike rides around just the surrounding areas where I was stopped at, specifically Gaylord, Michigan. I took better than a day and a half off, almost 2 days off there in Gaylord, Michigan. But I guess that was a week prior. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. Ran pretty relaxed this week, so that's why it's so low. Because I was running, I was looking for loads, but if a load had a little bit of time in between when I picked it up and when I delivered it, I was totally okay with it because I was out there just sort of enjoying the weather. Yeah, so that's why this week is pretty relaxed. Not very many miles at all, and I was actually relatively okay with that. So that's what's going on there. Fuel expenses were quite high. Not sure why, now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, why is that so high? Huh. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, it must have been this week as well. So the week prior, so I talked about how that Heber load right there was on the week before that. I'm guessing one of these loads I fueled up, well, I must have ended this previous week on like empty, and then fueled up on this week's paycheck, which would have juiced that, and I probably did the same thing on the following week. So I'm guessing next week's fuel expense is going to be quite low. I'm guessing that's why that's happened. I can't think of a reason other than that why that would be so high. It's just I started the week on empty and I ended the week full, would be my guess. I don't know why that's so high, but I'm guessing that's the reason why. But anyways, that's that. Okay, and then for this maintenance expense, had a check engine light come on, actually 2 times kind of. So my check engine light came on earlier in this week or something like that, and I looked at my little dashboard and it said that my my rear axle temperature gauge sensor was grounded. Basically, it had chafed, and then there was exposed wire, and the exposed wire was malfunctioning basically, and there was no rear axle temperature gauge. So looked at that and said, okay, well, that's not a big deal. Whenever I get it in, I'll fix it. You know, as long as my axles aren't overheating, which they're not, should be fine. So I ran on it for a few days, and then as I was running on it, I checked it again. And then when I checked it again, my little dashboard gauge there, which shows you roughly what is the issue, had a bunch more sensors go off. So the sensor, the axle sensor wasn't a big deal, and that would have been completely fine to keep running. But then it just so happens, as a coincidence, my ACM, my after treatment control module, which does the DEF system basically, also went off at the same time. So that was a problem. I couldn't ignore that. So looked at that, and I had there was one what do you call it, alert for the axle temperature, which I was basically ignoring because I knew it wasn't a big deal. But then the after treatment had 5 different alerts going off, and I'm like, oh shit. So I couldn't ignore it. So then brought it in. I think it was around the St. Louis. Yeah, I think it was around the St. Louis load that this occurred. So I brought it in pretty much that same day. They looked at it, and if you remember, if you're watching this channel a few months back, I think it was February or something like that, when I just started at Landstar, had a knock sensor go out. So they brought it in, they looked at it, and they concluded that it was the other knock sensor. So I'll be the first to admit my mechanical knowledge is not very good, but apparently there's an inlet knock sensor and an outlet knock sensor. The first time they just replaced, I think, the inlet knock sensor. Now it was the outlet knock sensor that was going out. So they looked at that, they figured it out, it just needed another knock sensor replacement. So I had them replace the axle sensor as well while they were doing it, because obviously, and then they replaced the knock sensor as well. So they did that. I was down for a half a day or something. Luckily it was just a sensor. And yeah, but they pegged me, I think it was $1,800 for that. And then also, while I was driving, I hit just basically a crater in the ground. I didn't see it. I was coming off of an interstate ramp, and there was just basically a crater in the ground. I just didn't see it in time. And I ended up knocking off my hood mirror because I hit that crater really hard, and I just nailed it. Yeah, it knocked off my hood mirror, so I also had to pay $50 for a new hood mirror. So yeah, a few issues here and there, but yeah, the big one was the knock sensor. That one itself cost me $1,500, and then the other sensor, I think it was $300 or something like that. But anyways, yeah, so those 3 issues, the knock sensor, the axle sensor, and then the hood mirror, had a few issues, and it ended up costing me damn near $2,000. So it's fixed now, and now I know I got 2 brand new knock sensors, so that's good. And now we have 2 brand new knock sensors. Hopefully that's not an issue anymore, but that one certainly hurt, and that one certainly put me back. So I ended up having a short week, sort of, a relaxed week, I should say. And then I had high fuel bill, and then a maintenance issue that basically torpedoed the entire week. So we ended up not making anything, effectively. Minus $31, but, you know, it is what it is. Other than that, yeah, shorter loads do pay a little bit better. You can see the rate per mile here is pretty good, except for this one right here. That one's kind of crappy. Not sure why. They gypped me on that. I think I got gypped on that load. I'm gonna have to look at that. Yeah. That doesn't seem right now that I'm looking at it. I think I got gypped on this load. Hold on. I got gypped $1,000 on that load. Okay. Now, when I looked at it on the actual payment website, it had some weird, it wasn't broken down correctly. So I guess I need to give that one another week, but now that I'm looking at it, yeah, now that I'm looking at it, I'm glad I looked at this. This is why you keep track of your numbers. The total line haul should have been 2,100. And then the accessorial should have been 323.9. Yeah. I got completely gypped there. Alright, yeah, I'm going to have to look at that and call them up, actually. I'm discovering this in real time, so you guys are seeing one of the mistakes here. Make sure you check and make sure you get paid, because I didn't catch that until I had just realized it. Yeah, that one wasn't right. So, I mean, look, double check this. Let me look at the statement. Yeah, so actually this is the statement right here. This is how it appears. I think I'll probably hide some information as I'm showing you this, but this one right here is the load that we're talking about, right? Yeah, Anniston to Oskaloosa, however you say it. Yeah, so it was supposed to be 2,100 total on the line haul. And as you can see, there's actually, they didn't do it right, so that's not how it's supposed to be right there. That one, I don't know what that's about. It should be like this up here. So they didn't break it down correctly, so I'm gonna have to give them a call. But yeah, so now that I'm looking at it, well, check your numbers. Make sure you check your numbers, you're getting paid correctly. Anyways. Okay, so there's the updated numbers. I guess I'll show this whole thing. So I'm not going to go through it all again. You guys just discovered me discovering a error in real time. I don't know, maybe that'll be interesting for you to note, but that's why you always check these numbers. I didn't catch that number that wasn't correct, so I'll have to call them up. But anyways, that's what I should get paid, and that's what I will get paid because they gave me a confirmation of it. And if I have to call Landstar and tell them to pay me the right amount, I'll do it. So anyways, that's what I should have gotten paid. Huh. Anyways, okay, really weird week. Really weird tangent there. Anyways, there's week 27. There's an error right here. Big fuel bill and a big maintenance expense. So, interesting. There you go. All right, now let's go over the overalls. Now that I did that. Okay. Total since starting the program. We've driven a total of 61,015 miles. Total expenses are $52,105 for an average of 85 cents per mile, and that is my cost per mile. Total revenue is $105,208 for an average of $1.72 per mile. That brings our profit loss to $53,102 for an average of 87 cents per mile, and all of these loads are dry van. Averages and other information. Average weekly paycheck is $1,956. Average weekly miles is 2,248 miles. Total fuel costs are $28,994 at 48 cents per mile. Total maintenance costs are $9,856 at 16 cents per mile. Total other expenses are $13,253 at 22 cents per mile. If we kept this up for a 52-week period, we get $101,734 and drive a total of 116,000 miles. Landstar 35% cut. That is equated to $41,183 at 67 cents per mile. Total revenue is $146,391, which averages out to $5,393 of revenue per week. Total deadhead is 4,379 miles, which equates to 7% of total mileage. We've been employed 190 days or 27 weeks, 17 days off, 173 days on duty, 46 total loads. Average load length is 1,326 miles. And if we had a $500 truck payment, we'd make $39,531 for an average of 65 cents per mile. Okay, yeah, so averaging 87 cents per mile, made $53,000 per week this week. Our total line haul is $2.58 per mile, so that's before Landstar takes its cut and does not include deadhead, which is hitting my goal. And as I book shorter loads, that's been going up, so I'll probably start booking some shorter loads around the Midwest more now, especially with the weather being so nice up here. When it gets to winter, I don't know if I'm going to do that because it's kind of a pain in the ass to drive through snow. So I don't know if I'm going to continue up here in the winter. We'll see how it goes. But right now I'm really enjoying it up here, and I'm probably going to keep going for a little while. So there's that, $258 per mile. Oh yeah. So we're cracking the $100,000 mark. So, you know, if we kept this up for an entire year, we'd make $101,000. So that's nice. It's always nice to get that six figures, which we're doing. Now, my truck is paid off, and that's helping me significantly. If your truck was not paid off, you would only be making $39,531. So, I mean, that you'd be making about $80,000. But right now, me personally, this would equate to $101,000 per year. And eventually the truck would blow up, and then I have to buy a new truck, so I guess you do have to kind of minus it out. But the cash flow right now is $101,000, so that's cool. That's the first time that number has hit 100,000, so that's pretty neat, And yeah, there you go. Averaging $5,393 in revenue per week. That includes maintenance days, that includes time off, and that includes days when weeks when I just sort of didn't run very hard like last week. So $5,000 per week in revenue. So there's that. And then obviously, as already mentioned, making just shy of $40,000 if I had a $500 per week truck payment, which would equate to 65 cents per mile. That is not good. That's not worth it. If you are thinking about coming to Landstar, you have a truck payment, I'd hesitate. And honestly, I'd hesitate to become an owner-operator or become a lease operator right now, because it's just really bad. It's just really, really bad. So just a note there. I think that's a pretty interesting note there. If I had a $500 per week truck payment, I'd be making about as much as a company driver. So just keep that in mind. Okay, yeah, so there is week 26 and 27. Got this load right here, which I was gypped $1,000. It's a Sunday right now, so I might have to call them tomorrow, but I'll probably call them today and see what they say. You know, whenever you deal with stuff like this, it's always good to keep a calm head. Based on the way it's appearing on the statement, there might just be some sort of weird error with it. I'll give them a call. You know, you always want to approach this as this was not malicious, which I don't think it was malicious. I think there's just something going wrong with it. And a lot of times, like, a load will appear one way one week, and then there will be like another settlement the next week where it's corrected. So that's probably going to happen with this load right here. But when I look at it on my pay statement, it's like $1,000 short. So that's interesting. Didn't do anything wrong on that load. Delivered it right on time and everything. So shouldn't be any reason for that. I think that was just an error and something that will get settled next week. But I will call them today and potentially tomorrow to see what was going on there. But yeah, interesting to note. I found that as I was filming. So well, at least it brought me back into the green. So oh yeah, that brought me up to $582.33 per mile instead of what I originally said, which was 2 cents per mile error. Hope that wasn't too confusing for you guys, but I guess it was interesting. You know, there's me catching an error midstream, or I guess mid-recording this episode. So maybe you guys will find that interesting, or maybe you'll just find it totally uninteresting. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. If you are interested in this spreadsheet or any of the other spreadsheets I've done in the past, you can find them in the About section down below. After you find them, you can open them, and then just hit File, Download, and you can download them to a Microsoft Excel sheet. And after you download them to a Microsoft Excel sheet, you can use them however you please. But that will do it for this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.